Hey there, theatrical makeup students. It's Mr. Peoples again. I realize that I can do a little bit of a better job helping you out with this Tempest lesson. So, I'm going to go through some words that you might not understand, and we'll also just briefly chat about the overall plot of the play and just to kind of ease you into this final quiz for today's lesson and maybe yeah, today, so Thursday and Friday's lessons, I would say, for all of my makeup classes. All right, so I'm looking here at this glossary of uncommon words, and I'm gonna full screen it. All right, so the Tempest word glossary, it is a collection of words that are commonly used in the Tempest that aren't common to our modern English. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and explain some of the ways that they're used in the script, and especially if they stand out to me. Abstemious. The abstemious is another word for moderation or being moderate and not eating, drinking, or doing anything else in excess or to the detriment of yourself. And the way this is used in the play is Prospero and Ferdinand have a conversation about being abstemious when it comes to the romantic relationship between Miranda and Ferdinand and not consummating the marriage before the wedding. And so just being abstemious, which means be moderate, be conservative, and don't do anything rash that you'll regret later. And a main, this comes in Act 4 when Juno is coming into the play, and Ceres and Iris are talking about her, and I think Iris says her peacocks fly amain. This means that Juno's peacocks are flying in at great speed, and I believe that is a reference to peacocks being what were like the symbol of her. Maybe even she could be accompanied by peacocks whenever she appears. Um, we have bark. So you'll hear you should have heard or read in the beginning of the play, Prospero talking about being put on a bark by Gonzala, I believe, and being sent off to presumptively his death with Miranda in tow. A bark is just a boat. So Gonzala put Prospero and Miranda on a boat and a very small sailing ship and sent them off. So a bark, I think that's referencing that it's a very small boat, maybe could even have been carved out of a tree, if it was really crude. And so that term kind of stuck as bark of a tree. It could be that it was just a regular boat, but just very small and not spacious, which aligns with the way that Prospero describes it as being essentially just being thrown out into the ocean to his death. Base my trespass. Alonza, she says, "Oh, the thunder proclaimed her sin like a noise from the heavens." So, base her trespass in this sense is um, the condemnation was uttered in a deep bass voice. So, the thunderclap is signifying that her sin, or you can even just think of like the way that Ariel is talking to them in scene 3 of Act 3. The base my trespass is really about that vocal quality that Ariel's going to have, and the sound effects too. Bermuths refer to the Bermudas, a common word to describe tempests and enchantments. Bermuths. So, I mean, they're referencing the Bermudas, like the islands, because, or the, that Bermuda is an island, but it's also another word for like a storm, a tropical storm. and apparently an enchantment. So that really goes along with what we're talking about with this script. Tropical island, storm, and magic. So you'll see that mentioned. Betid means happened or befell, something happened to them, or here it means that nothing has happened to the boat's inhabitants. So nothing betid them. So this is when Prospero is explaining to Miranda, no harm has come. So betid. Bosun. I know I think I explained this in class on Friday of last week, but it looks like boatswain, but it is not pronounced that way. It's kind of like very quickly said, bosun, the ship's petty officer in charge of the deck crew, the rigging, anchors, boats, and so on. So like lifeboats. That is the character, the bosun. That is his job. Bombard is a large leather container meant to hold liquor. And I think you hear Trinculo reference Bombard in his first monologue. And he's talking about the clouds look like a big jug of liquor, like they're about to pour out liquid. So, uh, interesting kind of metaphor there or simile. Born, a limit or a boundary. So the born here used to mean that no land would be divided among landowners. There you go. I don't quite remember where that one's coming from in the script, but just in case you do have a question about what it means, bring a corollary. Corollary. Here meaning to bring too many spirits rather than not enough. So I think he says, let's have. Oh, there's a certain word he uses. You don't. He says, I don't want to be wanting for more spirits. So just go ahead and bring way too many. Over an overabundance is a corollary. Berlaken by Ladykin, a reference to the Virgin Mary. I don't know if that one made the cut for our version, but we'll see. Case. So here and prepared. Or here it means prepared. So this is case. Case would be an adjective in this sense. So prepared. Chaps are your jaws. And I think this is referring to Trinculo and Stefano when they're under the cloak. Stefano is telling Caliban to open his jaws and drink more. They use chaps as the word. Coraggio is to take courage, and that's an Italian word. So these Italian characters are only saying like one word of Italian the whole show, which is interesting. But yes, so that is Coraggio monster, bully monster. Dowel is a small feather, so you can see it's DOW, kind of like down feathers, or like the little fuzzy feathers of a chick or a baby bird. Dowel. Dropsy was a disease characterized by the accumulation of fluid in the connective tissues, resulting in swelling. So dropsy, I think Caliban says a dropsy drown you, fools, or something to that effect. And dropsy, he's cursing them. He's saying, I hope you get this disease and you drown in your own lungs. So, your lungs fill up with fluid and you drown. Pretty dark stuff, yeah. Drowning Mark. So this is interesting. It's not a version of this that I've ever heard, and so take it, with a grain of salt. But according to this source, which is the Cliff Notes kind of list of all the different words that you might not know the meanings to from the Tempest, Drowning Mark refers to a mole, and it's located on the bosun's face, apparently. The appearance of which was thought to portend a person's manner of death. So they would say, like, if a mole had a certain color or shape, then it would be like a sign of your like a kind of like a lifeline is on your palm for a palm reader to read. They would read the mole and tell you how you were going to die. And what is happening is they're saying that this mole there's no mole that is indicating that this person would drown or die of drowning. So it's probably going to be more like a death by hanging. If yeah, I I have a feeling they're reading a little too much into this, and I think there is no mole, and that's the whole point. There's no mole, um, and actually, they're saying I'm just going to take that out. Um, they're saying that it's more likely that this person's going to die of hanging because there is no mole indicating that they'll die of drowning. All right. Whew. Extirpate. Okay, extirpate, to pull up by the roots. So the reference here is to Prospero Miranda's being forced from their home and country. So to extirpate something is to pull a plant up by its roots. Also to pull, he's comparing that to the way that he was exiled from his former home, which was Milan. Feature, more graceful. So feet of foot means that you're light on your feet, you're really graceful, you're a good dancer, whatever. You're good at jumping around and getting out of sticky situations. So here, Antonio's new rank and clothes that befit it looks graceful on him. So he looks nicer. So in this sense of the word feet or feature, it looks really nice on him. It is well fitting. Okay, so he went from being second in command to the top dog in Milan, and now his clothes fit better. He's more wealthy. People pay more attention to him, and he looks better all around. Okay, foiled, to keep from being successful, to thwart, to frustrate. Oftentimes, you have probably heard in like cartoons from back in the day, you foiled again. You foiled my plans. That's what this means exactly. And foil could also mean a person who is the antagonist to another person. So like an antagonist in a play would be the foil to the protagonist usually, and then there'll be several sets of foils. So you could see like Trinculo and Caliban are each other's foils because they don't like each other and they kind of bounce off of each other. Foison, plenty. So here specifically, an abundance of produce. This is from Act 4 when they're talking about Ceres and her foison plenty. Like she's the one responsible for this abundance of nature and the harvest. Frippery is an old clothing shop. A frippery would be like what we would consider like a Goodwill or a Salvation Army store, Helping Hands, Samaritan shop, anything like that. Like the frippery is the place where you would go to get secondhand clothing. And this is in reference to what is going on in Act 4, the end of Act 4. Mm-hmm. Furtherer. A furtherer is an accomplice. So if you were to aid someone in committing a crime, you would be furthering their criminal activity. Therefore, you're a furtherer in the act of robbing a bank or, whatever it may be. Genius, either of two spirits, one good and one evil, supposed to influence one's destiny. So your genius is like the you can think of like the good and the bad angels on your shoulder, the angel and the devil on your shoulders. That would be either one of those would be considered your genius, whether it's good or bad. Hereditary sloth. So this is referring to Sebastian and his conversation with Antonio. The natural inclination of a younger brother to be lazy, according to Sebastian, who sees the lack of hereditary title as a reason to achieve nothing of his own. So Um, in those days, in Shakespeare's time, in the time of monarchies and things like that, if you were the firstborn son, you were destined to inherit all the property and all of the titles and things like that. So if you're the second born son, then you are going to have nothing. Um, so you might be taken care of your whole life if you're from a wealthy family, especially royalty, but you're never going to be as accomplished as your older brother. So this hereditary sloth idea is the laziness that accompanies that kind of melancholy, like, oh, well, what's the point? Why try? Because I'm never going to be as successful as my older brother. And that's what Sebastian is feeling about, or in this case, his older sister. Um, yeah, because she's the firstborn, so she became the queen. And remember, we're playing with gender a little bit too, so yeah. Anyways, hest is archaic. A behest, a bidding, an order. Miranda was commanded not to reveal her name to anyone, especially Ferdinand, and at the behest of her father's hest. So she breaks that and she feels guilty about it. And she goes, "Oh no, I broke my father's hest." So there's just a command, an order. Hollowly here means insincerely. So hollow. If something is hollow, it means that it's empty. And so if you were to make a hollow promise, or if you were to promise something hollowly, it would be an insincere promise. It would be something you don't mean. Inch meal, inch by inch. Here, Caliban hopes for Prospero's fall. So, inch by inch, he's hoping for Prospero's fall. Inveterate means firmly established over a long period of time. So, inveterate just means that this has been something that has been proven time and time again, inveterate. Jerkin. A jerkin, which we'll hear about in Act 4, is a short, close-fitting jacket, often sleeveless. It would kind of go over your other clothes back in the Renaissance times. You'll hear it referred to as jerkin, you be a bald jerkin, because it's fur-lined. A caib. Caib is a chapped or ulcerated sore, especially on the heel. So you can think of like a big old blister or something that's like something like that on the foot. If Antonio's conscience were a sore on his foot, Antonio might put on a slipper. So what Antonio is saying, he's comparing his conscience to like a sore that, in order to prevent from himself from being bothered by that, he's just going to cover it up. So essentially, he's saying his conscience isn't concerned with any foul deeds he may be doing. All right. A living drollery, probably a puppet show with live actors. So a living drollery, this is in Act 3, Scene 3. I think this is maybe Sebastian saying, oh, these are like puppets. Interesting, because we're going to do puppets. Okay. Long spoon, alluding to an old proverb that a man must have a very long spoon to eat with the devil. Stefano thinks that Trinculo is a ghost. So when he encounters Caliban and Trinculo together under the cloak and he pulls them out, or hears his voice, he goes, I don't have a long spoon. I'm going to back up. It means you don't want to get too close to something that might be evil. So you would want to use a long spoon in order to, be around the devil or feed the devil at least. Maid. Okay, so a maid is here really specifically a handmaiden, which is a woman or a girl servant or attendant. And I think this is the point where Miranda is promising herself to be either Ferdinand's maid or wife, whichever he wants. But she's saying, I'm going to commit myself for life to you, whether it's in marriage or if I'm just your servant. I'm going to be around, so get used to it. Mantle, enclose or envelop. So to mantle something is to like kind of encase it or enclose it. That's why oftentimes a cloak is referred to as a mantle because it is enveloping us and wrapping us up. Merely. So absolutely altogether. Here it means that they are completely cheated of their lives by drunkards. This is in the very first scene of the play. I believe it's either Sebastian or Antonio saying, we are merely cheated of our lives. So it's being kind of, the word merely seems an odd choice there, but it's actually saying we're completely at the beck and call or at the mercy of these drunk people that are running the ship. And at least that's how they view them, which is probably not true, but they're also, of a different class than these people. And so they have all these assumptions about the deck crew and what they're like. And they're probably not actually drunk. Mooncalf is a monstrosity, a misshapen creature born under the moon's influence. So Caliban is referred to as a mooncalf by Stefano because he is very strange to look at. Murrain, a disease of cattle. A murrain, and I believe this is kind of meant as a curse. Patch. Patch is archaic for a court jester, any clown or fool. It's probably referring to Trinculo. Phoebus's steeds, the mythological horses that drew the chariot of the sun. I don't know that this one got into our cut of the script, so it might not be worth worrying about. Pied Ninny is Caliban's word for Trinculo. He's saying he's a fool. He looks crazy. Pied Ninnies were usually, pied was a reference to like the manner of dress, and Ninny being a fool, so it meant you just look silly. Rapier, a slender two-edged sword used chiefly in thrusting. So it was very ineffective at slashing, but it was, effective in like a stabbing motion because it's so thin and maybe not so sharp on the edges. But really, you would see it in things like, what is it? I'm trying to think what the term is. Fencing. Rate, opinion, requite, to make return or repayment to for a benefit, injury, and so on, reward. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Roars are the noisy and unruly waves at the beginning of the play in the first scene. Scamels, the meaning is uncertain, but thought to be either shellfish or rock-inhabiting birds. Sicklemen refers to the nymphs disguised as harvesters. Signories, domains or city-states in northern Italy, subject to the rule of a lord or signor. Subtleties here are the illusions, and I think that's Prospero referring to illusions that he's created. Surety is a person who takes responsibility for another. Miranda will be Ferdinand's guarantee, so she's his surety. Swabber, the sailor who washes the ship and keeps the decks clean. Tawny, brownish yellow. Here used to mean the sun has turned the ground a parched brown color. And this is used to kind of combat Gonzala and Adriana's description of the beauty of the land of the island. Teen, injury or harm. Miranda's worried that she caused this for Prospero. I think they have this backwards here. That's why you don't trust all on sources. You got to do your own research. And I'm learning that in real time. No, I know. I knew there were going to be some problems, and that's why I'm going through it with you. Tight and year, sound and ready. The ship is ready to sail. Too messy, unable to move. Here, through magic, the men are paralyzed. So that's when we're talking about Act 3, Scene 3. Ariel is casting that spell on them. Trident, a three-pronged spear by a gladiator. I think you all know that because you've seen Little Mermaid. Troll to catch, to sing the round lustily or in a full rolling voice. So this is that song Caliban asked them to sing it for him again, and Stefano and Trinculo oblige, but then they sing it wrong, and Caliban gets mad. Trumpery, something showy but worthless. Here, the gaudy clothing designated as bait for the three conspirators. Trumpery is like gaudy, crazy, like glittery, fancy, but not nice. But actually worthless. Yeah. So if you put glitter on a donut, it would be cute, but it would be worthless because you can't eat it anymore. Twain, two. Ferdinand refers to himself and his father as but two of the victims of the storm. Unbacked, not broken to the saddle, said of a horse. Vanity, reference to an illusion or trick that Prospero has created. Vanity meaning that it's something just visual, surface level, and it's not real. Wallets, this means like a waddle or a fleshy sack under the neck, often brightly colored piece of skin that hangs from the throat of a turkey. Weazened is windpipe. I believe Caliban's like, let's crush his windpipe. And wooden slavery, being compelled to carry wood, is what it is. And yearly brisk or smartly, here the boatswain is instructing the sailors to move quickly or the ship will be pushed aground, by the storm. All right. And I think that is hopefully helpful to you. I just wanted to go through some of those and for you to hear me say them so you have experience with the sound of the word. But hopefully that clears up some things that you were confused about. Also, remember that there is the attachment on Google Classroom already of the link to the No Fear Shakespeare version of this text. So I really want you to do your best to use that resource because it seems like from the first quiz that a lot of you are having trouble understanding the text. So go back. Even if you want to just read the No Fear Shakespeare version, that's okay by me. It has both text in there. Mine's a little shorter. That's the only reason I recommend you use that. But anyways, I hope you're having a good day and enjoy the rest of this project. I love The Tempest, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I do. All right. Well, see you later. Bye.